Hello and welcome to the Collective Conspiracy Show. Thank you very much for joining me on a Sunday evening, a Sunday night. Obviously, usually we normally broadcast every other Monday, but we were supposed to be interviewing Glenn Richardson tonight about ufology and his experiences there and the work that he does in that field. But unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, Glenn had to cancel, and I'm sure we'll get him on at some point in the future. So last minute, I just decided to repeat the presentation that I did not so long ago now for the Festival of the Unexplained, where I did my latest presentation, Experiences of a Paranormal Investigator. So for those that may have been following me for a while now in the paranormal side of things, I wrote a book called An Introduction to Paranormal Investigation, and then I toured the country giving that presentation to groups. And off the back of that, I decided to start working on another book, which is Experiences of a Paranormal Investigator. And of course, I did a presentation on that. I managed to, before this nonsense that's going on now, before all that started, I was able to get out to a few groups around the country and give that presentation. Unfortunately, I've had several or a handful of events cancelled since then because of what's going on. But luckily, I can do stuff like this, and I'm still able to present it to you people who are here joining me tonight. If you're not joining me live, if you're watching this at a later time or a later date, then welcome. Thank you for choosing to watch this. Please, as always, it's interactive. Hit me up in the comments. Hi, Dave. Hope you're all right, mate. David Thompson. Hi, mate. Martin. How you doing, Martin? You must come around for that beer, Martin, whenever you're ready. Valerie. Hi, Valerie. If you're going to comment as well, give StreamYard permission. Otherwise, I won't be able to see your name. So tonight, we're going to be going through some evidence, through some evidence that I've managed to capture from some investigations that I've done, mainly focusing on a case study that from a house in Essex that I was invited down to. I think it was December 2019 when we first went down, and worked with the family, still in touch with them about the ongoing issues there and the hauntings that they've got going on there. It's not too far from Enfield, actually. Not so sure it's connected, but just an interesting fact. I think it's about 7 miles or so from Enfield, where they're based. And I was lucky enough to be asked to go down there. Unlucky for the family because it's not a very nice thing that's going on. And I was lucky enough to capture some things which I'm going to show you tonight. So if you've got headphones, please do make sure they're plugged in. Make sure your sound is turned up, because some of the things I'm going to be asking you to listen to can be quiet. And if you've got headphones in, just make sure that your volume is up as well. And if you're looking on your phone, some of the things I'll ask you to see might be quite small, or you might not be able to distinguish it on your phone, so do bear that in mind. I do say though, anybody that wants this presentation sent to them, just let me know, because I don't mind kind of sharing evidence. And one of my bugbears when it comes to the paranormal field is people tend to sit on evidence and hog it, and they don't like to share it around because, well, I don't know. I don't have an answer for it, really. I don't know why people would do it if they're not interested in sharing the evidence. But I know plenty of people that have got some fantastic evidence, and it just sits on their phone, and they're not very happy to show other people. And I've never really understood that. So, so tonight, for a change, it's just going to be me. I know it's the conspiracy show, but we are going to be talking a little bit about the paranormal. I do try to keep them separate. I do have the Paranormal Paradigm podcast, where I try and keep all stuff paranormal, but needs must. And with the late cancellation, I thought this might be of interest, particularly to the target audience on this group. So I'm going to just share the presentation now. So because of the way this works on StreamYard, it's quite difficult to show it full screen, so you're going to have to bear with me. And also, when I first show you a piece of evidence with sound, I'd appreciate it if you could just put in the comments that you can actually hear it, because that will give me a great boost of confidence that you can actually hear what I'm talking about. So this is the presentation that I was giving, as I say, around the country just before lockdown hit us. So let's go. So for anyone that's kind of watched my presentations before or read the first book that I published, one thing that I tend to do is I try and look for what spirits might actually be. I don't find it. I don't. I'm not willing to accept that a spirit or every spirit or ghost is a deceased human or a deceased living being, shall we say? It's simply energy, and even us as human beings are just energy. We're just vibrational energy vibrating to a particular frequency, and that's all everything is around us. Every object that we can see, touch, feel, it's just a bunch of atoms vibrating to a particular frequency. And when I originally began researching this and the nature of our reality and perception and how we perceive the world, it began to just strike a few chords with me when out on my paranormal investigations, and this kind of invisible world that we're all trying to get in touch with when it comes to ghosts, and even when it comes to things such as cryptids, Bigfoot, or even aliens and extraterrestrials, who I would argue are actually interdimensional, not interplanetary. So you can see on this little diagram here, and I apologize to people that may have seen this before, but if you haven't, then this may be of interest to you. But just on this diagram, you can see there the light spectrum, essentially, a very simplified version of the light spectrum. And just in the middle, you can see what's called visible light. And that equates to roughly now, with new studies that are being done, roughly 0.035% of the light spectrum. So that means that we can only see roughly 0.035% of what is around us. Now, when you think about that, that is phenomenal. That is an absolutely fascinating, mind-blowing situation to be in. You think you're in your room, you think where you're sat now watching me, you think you can see everything around you. But actually, there's 99.65% roughly of that room you cannot see and you cannot interact with. And I would argue that is where these spirits exist, these forms of energy, these vibrational frequencies exist. And an analogy I always try to use is a block of flats. And if we're living on one floor in these flats, and above us you might have spirits, and you might have Bigfoot below us and aliens a few floors above. Now, you're all in the same block of flats, but you're operating on different floors. And you know that they're there because you can see them. Sometimes if you look out the window, you can see them walking across the car park. You can hear them moving the furniture around or playing the music quite loud, but you can't interact with them because ultimately you're on different levels. And the same with radio stations. Just because you're tuned into one radio station doesn't mean that the others don't exist. You're just not tuning into it at that moment in time. And I would argue that what happens when people experience a paranormal encounter, whether that be a spirit or a Bigfoot or a UFO, what you're actually encountering is a part of the light spectrum that you wouldn't normally be able to encounter. So maybe your frequencies have messed up ever so slightly and you've seen something that you wouldn't normally see. And when that spirit disappears, people will say that Bigfoot vanished in front of their eyes, or the UFO was there 1 minute and then it just completely disappeared. I would argue that it didn't disappear, it's still there. But what's happened is your frequencies have reconnected themselves, and you're now operating back on the frequency that your human body allows you to see. And ultimately, that's what it is. You're trapped within this visible light spectrum by the human body. Your consciousness can experience everything. It is everything. It's everything that there ever is, was, and will be. That's what you are. But you're trapped inside this biological vessel that inhibits you and only allows you to experience this reality in the 5 senses. So it's quite an interesting concept. When you start to look at it like this, all of a sudden, a whole new doorway opens up. And it might now be that every spirit you encounter isn't a dead body, isn't a dead person. It is just energy, because that's all that we are. And once we leave this biological vessel, we can now move around onto different frequencies, because we don't have the limitations of our human body preventing us from moving around. And we can now vibrate on multiple frequencies. We can move throughout this spectrum. And that allows us to vibrate higher, it allows us to vibrate lower, and it allows us to come in and out of this vibrational frequency that we call the world, that we see now. And these spirits can come in, they can go out, but we're just trapped in it because of our body. So that's just a bit of a background really into my research. The point of my first book was to introduce people to the paranormal field. So if you're a seasoned investigator, you might be interested in the stories in the book, but you might not be that interested in the beginner's kind of way that I've written it, because I got a bit tired of people coming on investigations and, you know, what I've now dubbed the most haunted effect, where they're expecting things to be happening all the time. And I just wanted to take people back to basics and give them, a realistic understanding of what ghost hunting is and realistically what they can expect when on a ghost hunt. Now, when I started working on the next book and this presentation, I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I just took these people on a journey? And they've read the first book, they've got into ghost hunting, they know what the equipment is now, and now they're going out there and they're starting to have experiences. And they might not understand what they are, they might not know how to decipher them, or what exactly it is that they're seeing. So what I decided to do was aim it at these people again and just take them through it. So you're using this piece of equipment, this is what you might capture now, and what you've captured might be this, and this is how you can debunk it, and this is how you can explain it a little bit better. If I am talking a bit funny, I apologise. I had a tooth out earlier in the week. It's very, very painful. I am slightly drugged up on painkillers at the moment. So if I do talk a bit funny, my tongue keeps catching this big gap that I've now got in my mouth. Not very nice at all for anyone that's had a tooth out. So what I decided to do was break down experiences into categories. And this is what I came up with. There are audible experiences, visible, sensory, empathetic, physical, and interference. And we'll go through these throughout this presentation. Now, as well, I must point out that I'm used to doing this presentation over the course of 2 to 3 hours. I'm going to try and squeeze this in now into the next 45 minutes. So if I do seem rushed or if I miss a few things out, apologies, but I might go a little bit over, maybe 10 minutes or so. We'll see. There's no real strict rules as to how long I can go. It's just how long you're willing to give me your attention for. So I broke it down into these categories. Now, they do cross over, of course. So, physical, for example, might be being touched, or it might actually see something being moved. So something being thrown or something being pushed. But that obviously also falls into the visible category because you're seeing it as well. So they do cross over, but I have tried to break it down as best as I possibly can. And of course, as we go through this, as I say, any comments or any reactions to what I show you or what I talk about, please throw it up in the comments. I'm always open to discussions. So we're going to work through these now, through these categories. So audible experiences. So it's pretty self-explanatory what they might be. People will hear voices or knocks or footsteps, and you can do that with your own ears. You can capture it with an EVP recorder, of course, one of the most common pieces of equipment that people will use. Or you can capture a sound on a video recorder as well, of course. If you're taking a video or filming something that enables you to record sound. The problem with that is they won't always be as good at capturing sound as a purpose-built electronic voice phenomena or an EVP recorder. These tend to have a wider range of frequencies that they can pick up, and most of the time it'll be frequencies that we can't hear with the human ear, which brings us back to the graph or that chart that I showed you at the start. How much is happening outside of the human perception that we can't see or hear? How many times do people pick up things on an EVP recorder that they didn't hear at the time, but when they listen back to it, there's a lot of interaction going on, and you'd like to think that you would have heard that, and if you'd have heard that, you would have reacted, but people don't until later when they've recorded it on the EVP recorder. So the first thing we're going to go through is some of the noises that I picked up at this house that I mentioned in Essex. The family have been kind enough to allow me to show their home and the videos that were recorded there. Now, some of the noises or the videos that you see contain swearing. It's a family home, and I apologise for that, but quite scary occurrences at times. So I can understand why they swear and why they act like they do. But again, as I said before, I'm about to show you some audio. So make sure your sound is turned up or your earphones are plugged in. And please just throw in the comments if you can hear it, because that will Otherwise, I'm wasting my time, and I'm going to have to rethink what we do. So hopefully you can hear this. So what you're about to see is a video of a dog. He's on the landing. This is about 3 o'clock in the morning, and the dog is reacting to something. He can sense something going on, and then you hear some knocking coming from, well, it's difficult to tell where it comes from, actually, but just let me know if you can hear this. So just towards the end there, you hear these kind of 3 knocks. It's 3.5. There's like an ever such a slight knock at the end as well. So we'll play that again and just see if you can hear these knocks. So it's quite clear, I think. Please do put in the comments if you can hear that before I move on. It would be great. Yep, heard them. Fantastic. Not sure who that is. You've come up as Facebook user, but fantastic. Glad you can hear it. Right, so yes, that's just some knocking. The entity in this house is very dark. It's not a very nice entity. It's not a very nice energy that's going on in this house, and it does interact. And it will get worse as I go through these clips. So it's gonna go through them, see what I can play. Some things I can't play because of the way it's worked on the presentation, but it's probably for the good in terms of how long we've got. So in this video, you're going to hear a growl. Now, again, it contains the dog. David, you heard it. Fantastic. Thanks for watching this, by the way, David. I know you've already seen this, so I hate to repeat myself for people like yourself. So if you watch this next particular clip, you're going to see a dog is being let in from the garden with Lee, the man of the house, and it's clearly not the dog that growls, because the man reacts and then he says to the dog, "You heard that, didn't you?" Now Lee would have known if it was the dog, obviously, at the time. So let's just see what you make of this. So again, you hear the growl. As Lee turns his back on the door, you hear this growl. It's not a very nice growl. It's quite deep. It's quite animalistic. It's quite malicious. And he turns to the dog and asks the dog, "You heard that as well?" And of course, if he heard that with his own ears, the cameras picked it up as well. Now, I must add that the family put these cameras up because of what was going on, and they wanted to try and get as much evidence for myself and for themselves as possible. So we'll just play that again, just see if you can hear that growl. It's just as Lee turns his back and starts walking into the house. So that's not a very nice noise to hear, and it kind of sets the precedence for what's going on in this house. Really, it's not a very nice, it's not a very nice environment. I'm just gonna have a drink. It's the problem when you're talking on your own. Normally, you have a drink when someone else is talking. So we'll move on. Again, if anybody wants to hear it again, just throw it in the comments. I'm happy to go back and play a particular clip again. Now, in this next clip, you're going to hear the word "oi." Now, this is an interesting clip because it's quite mechanical, is this? And it's quite high-pitched. Now, one thing we found out about this entity is it loves to throw its voice. There's been times where they've heard barking in the house and the dog hasn't been there. It's been out on a walk. There's no dogs next door. There's no dogs really around them. And they've heard their own dog barking. I know that sounds silly, but you can tell if it's your own dog barking. And there have been times where Lee, for example, the guy you've just seen, has been out at work, yet he shouted from upstairs down to one of the family members. He shouted their name and asked them to come here, come upstairs. And he's not in the house. But the family are adamant that this entity, can mimic voices. It can mimic the voice of the children. It can mimic the pets. It can mimic the adults. So it's not very nice. It's a very clever entity, and obviously can't be trusted. It obviously has nasty intentions. So in this particular clip, you're going to have a lot of background noise. You're going to have the TV. I think some of the family members are talking. It's a busy house. They've got 8-year-old twins. Everything's going on. And I imagine this thing really feeds off that energy. But you can hear this oi come over the top. And in my opinion, it is a separate noise to what you can hear underneath. But just give me your opinion when you hear it. So you hear this again. Just play that again. It's a very short clip. It's quite a high-pitched oi that you get there, almost like it's trying to get their attention. Again, the family said that nobody had said that word. They hadn't heard it with their own ears. It was picked up by the camera that they put up there in the corner of the hallway. And they weren't quite sure what that noise was, but it was a very interesting one because it's completely opposite, really, to the growl that you heard before. Because obviously the growl was quite low, it was quite deep, and then you get this high-pitched oi, very childlike. Very strange. Now, with this one, I'm going to play... I've got this twice, and the reason I've done that is because when I do this live, one thing I'm very aware of is subconsciously putting what I'm hearing into your minds, and I don't want to tell you what you're hearing. Of course, it's a bit more difficult doing it like this. So I'm going to play it now, and I just want you guys to see if you can hear what I hear and what the family have heard and what we believe it says. So what you're seeing there, this is an interesting clip actually, because as Lee comes out into the hallway, and that seems to be the epicenter of the activity, by the way, the bottom of the stairs and the top of the stairs, that seems to be the epicenter. But what you're seeing here is as he comes out, he reacts to something. Something's touched him, or he flinches a little bit, he turns around, and then you hear this voice. So I'll play again. I'm not going to say what I think it says, but you hear this voice, and then milliseconds after this voice says what it says, something hits him. He reacts again. He flinches again. So we'll just play that again. So can anyone pick that up? It's this kind of... It's this electronic or tinny voice that you can hear again, very similar to the oi that we heard before. Can anyone hear that? Can anyone pick that up? I'm keen to hear what people are thinking it says before I move on. Just going to wait for some of the comments to come in, but there is definitely a voice there. So what I'm going to do is move on, conscious of time. So I believe what we hear is going to get you just before he is hit. So we'll play it now. Now I've told you what to listen out for, but bear that in mind that I don't quite like doing that. Brilliant. And the reason I'm smiling is because we've got Audrey, Martin, and a Facebook user have all said that they can hear "get you." Martin, very good day. Picked up the "I'm going." You must have good headphones in. So that's what I hear. I hear the "going to" as well at the start. But it's fascinating because it just happens right before something is thrown at him, and you can clearly hear the thing that's thrown hit the floor. You see him react. So we'll play that one more time because this is one of our favourite pieces, really. Go from the start. So it's really interesting. Again, it's a completely different noise to what you can hear in the background. You can clearly hear the TV. You can hear him moving around. But then you hear this mechanical voice again, obviously, because it's coming through the camera. And again, he didn't hear that voice. It was picked up on the camera. He didn't hear that. Facebook user is my dad. Oh, hello, Dad. Dad, you need to give the StreamYard your permission, so I know it's you talking. Thanks, Martin. So we'll move on. Okay. Now, this next one's interesting, actually, because this is personal to me. So, as I say, I go around to groups and I give talks. And this particular piece of evidence was me giving a talk at a group, Truth Juice, in Bristol. It was in a little cafe, a lovely little group. And I have this, as you might be able to see, I have this little microphone on my collar and the unit attached to my pocket. And that was because Dan, the guy who runs the group, was recording me on video, and the audio was being picked up in that little microphone. And you can hear a couple of murmurs in the group, but on the whole, they were quiet. And what I then hear is someone call my name. I hear someone call Kieran. And I react. I ask who, does somebody want to ask a question? And they all kind of look at me blank at the time, as if to say, well, it wasn't us. And that was that. I move on. But interestingly, about 3 weeks later, Dan sent me this particular clip from the video that he was editing, saying, "What do you make of this?" And he managed to actually pick up what I thought I had heard on the day. Very interesting video. See what you guys make of this.
So of course someone called my name then.
So again, I hear this kind of low, this deep Kieran, and turn around thinking somebody wants my attention, and you can hear a little bit of a laugh after I react, because they're kind of saying, no, we haven't heard that. So just again. Someone called my name then. So that's interesting, because that really solidified what I thought I'd heard. And it was about 2 or 3 weeks after when Dan sent me that clip, and I'd forgot about it. So to actually have captured what I thought I'd heard on film, on audio, was a really good piece of evidence in my opinion. And it does sound quite echoey, so it might be far away. It's not that clear. Otherwise, the microphone on my collar would have picked it up. But it's just an interesting piece there. Someone's, if that's my dad, defo says your name. Yes, it does. I heard it live. And like I say, I was ever so grateful to Dan for sending me that clip, because it just confirmed what I thought I'd heard. So that's it really for some of the audio that I'm going to show. There are others, but again, conscious of time. Again, if anybody wants me to repeat anything or go back to something, just let me know and I'm happy to play it again. So the next category is visible. So seeing with your own eyes, and that could be shadows or orbs or a full manifestation. That's very rare. You can capture these on a video recorder, you can capture them on a thermal imaging camera, you can capture them with a photo. Some of these kind of pieces of equipment. We have a laser grid pen there, which allows you to capture shadows or see shadows with your eyes a lot more easily. But it's always important to stress that when you're staring at a laser for a long or a prolonged period of time, it's obviously going to mess with your eyes, and that's always important to remember. And also, if the laser beam isn't resting on a solid surface, or if it's kind of on a surface that isn't completely flat, then it may look like the pinpoints are moving or rotating, and you can mistake that for paranormal activity when it is literally just an optical illusion. The thermal imaging camera is fantastic, because what that allows you to do is to see outside of the visible light. So again, back to what I spoke about at the start, where we can only see this very, very small fraction. But when you use things such as the thermal imaging camera, which shows you the infrared range that we can't see with our own eyes, it allows you to see things that you wouldn't normally see. And we've had some great pieces of evidence with that. Heat on a chair where there's nobody sat, but when you look through the camera, there's clearly somebody sitting there, or has been sitting there, because the heat has transferred onto the chair, and you can't see it with your own eyes. So it's only by using these pieces of equipment that you can briefly step outside of your own perception and actually see things that you wouldn't normally see. So great pieces of equipment, expensive, but great pieces of equipment if you can get them. Shelley, hiya. Hi Shelley, hope you're okay. Okay, so one of the most basic things you can capture is a photograph, and this was a photo that I captured at a local cemetery. And what we have here is it's the same photo. I've just kind of zoomed in and played with the colours a little bit. And this was taken on as you can see, a very cold night. I think it got down to about -2 by the time we decided to leave. And I didn't see this at the time. It was only when I was going through the photos later that I picked up on this. So what you can see here is I've taken some pictures of some headstones. And just to the right, above the headstone on the right, you can see this kind of shadow. It's like a vague wisp almost. And I've zoomed in a little bit more, changed the contrast. Hi Molly, hope you're okay. Changed the contrast of that photo. And you can see it. Now I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around here, but I believe that part of this is a tombstone. And that's this little bit here that's a little bit darker. But whatever this is here comes down over the tombstone. You can see as it comes down a little bit further as well. And it's difficult to see it really because of the white, the frosting on the grass. It's quite difficult to see. And then on the next photo, I've changed the colour. So you can see there's definitely something there. And in my opinion, you can make out that tombstone a bit clearer now. But this gets a little bit darker here in the middle where this shadow or this figure clearly comes down over that tombstone. Now, I'd like your guys' opinion on what that is, because I've had, I've had people say to me, oh, it looks like this, it looks like that, and I'm not one for telling you guys what you should be seeing. So I'd be really interested to see what you guys think this is. So yeah, we'll just go back a bit and show you kind of the progression of the photo. So this is the original photo on the left. I've zoomed in the middle. I've started to change the contrast a little bit there on the right. And then once I've finished with the colours and playing with it, this is what we end up with. And it's a really interesting picture because I didn't see it with my own eyes, of course. And that's what we ended up with. So as I say, let me know what you guys think about that. I have my opinion on what I think it is. Someone says fingerprint, maybe. That's not what I see. I am open to what other people see, but not for me. Okay, so moving on. So this is taken from that house. So we're back to the house again now in Essex. And this is one of the daughters taking a picture of herself in the mirror. And let me know, guys, what you can see in that picture, because I can see it. I just want to know if you guys can see it. Just going to have a drink. Jessica, it looks like the back of a figure. Yes, it does. Shelley, I can see an animal. Okay, that's interesting, actually. So, obviously to the right, in the darker part of the picture, you can make out a face. I think it's a face. Now, it's interesting you've said that, Shelley, because I see a chimp. I see a monkey's face. It's I don't know why, but to me it looks like a monkey. Again, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Let me know if you can see my mouse. Otherwise, I'm doing this for no reason. But I see the teeth. I see the eye here and the outline here of the fur of what I would expect to see, the fur of a monkey with his eye here. Now, this is where I have to bring up the pareidolia, or pareidolia, depends how you say it, but pareidolia. So pareidolia is where it's the brain's attempt to have to see patterns or recognizable patterns where there aren't any. And this happens in everyday life. You see clouds in the sky and you try to make them look like something. Or again, it can happen not just with pictures, but it can also happen with audio. So when people hear EVP recordings, they might hear things that aren't there. It's just a ramble. It's a jumble of noise, but the human mind is so desperate to make sense of something that it makes it sound like something that it actually isn't. So what we could have here is just a smudge on the glass. I mean, it doesn't look like the cleanest of mirrors. There are clearly smudges all over this mirror. Yet one smudge just happens to form a face or something that looks like a face. So Martin, the face looks more human, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe something out of Planet of the Apes, half and half. The missing link, maybe, but there is definitely something there, and it definitely does look. To me, it looks animalistic, which might tie in with the behaviour of what's going on in this house. Very, very evil, very dark, and it's just an interesting photo. Make of it what you will. Does it show a spirit? Possibly. I don't know if any of you have guessed yet, but I am very skeptical, even of my own evidence. But to me, it does seem to show a face. That's all I'll say on that. Now we're back to the graveyard where I got that previous picture. Now this is a picture of absolutely nothing, so don't try and find something here. There's nothing here. But what it's showing you is the background for the next picture. So you can see here. Again, I'm assuming you can see my mouse. You can see these little walls, and what we're showing here is it's a little stream, and the stream runs between these bricks. And that's the background there. And now in the next photo, we have this. Now you can see the bricks here still, so it's the same background. And we had 3 photos taken, and this was the middle photo. So after this photo, there was nothing. It basically went back to this. And these photos were taken within milliseconds of each other. You know, it was quick, quick, quick. And this is what we had in the middle photo. I don't know what that is. To me, it's very solid. It's really difficult to see the background. You know, it's almost like someone's put something in front of the camera, trying to block it. Now, what I tried to do in my attempt to debunk was this. So again, we have the same background. You can just see the wall here on the floor. So what I've done here is I've blown in front of the camera. It was, again, a cold night, and this is my breath. So it's a lot more opaque, as you can see. You can see through it. You can clearly see the wall. You can see the background a lot clearer. It's very, very misty. It's very water vapory. You can see through it quite easily. But this you can't. This is really quite solid, in my opinion. Almost like someone's drawn something on the camera lens. You can't see through it. You really can't see the background. And like I say, it was a photo, and this was the middle one. Nothing either side, just a completely standard photo, but this appeared in the middle. And breath, as you know, lingers for quite a while. Like a vapor trail or a contrail that you might see for a long time. So you'd expect, if this was breath, for it to still be there on the next photo, yet it wasn't. So quite interesting, that one. Okay. So we're going to go back to the house now. On this video, what the family did was on the upstairs hallway, as you can tell, they've put cameras all around the house. But in this instance, they've put a camera right up the back of the hallway. There's nothing behind them. It's just a wall. To the left of the camera is the bathroom door. To the right is the main bedroom. And there's nothing behind the wall. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there's going to be some videos I'll show you in a second, which will come across as more interesting when you realise that there is nothing behind there. The camera is as tucked back as possibly can be. You can't get anything behind it. So on this, we're going to see a shadow. I'm not going to point it out. I just want to see if you guys see it. Okay, so the dog reacts to something there. So if you guys saw that, I'm not so sure, but what you see is the shadow comes from left to right, and it kind of covers the door, and it's quite easy to tell if you look at the door frame of the door on the left. So this door's closed. You can clearly tell the door's closed, and the shadow comes from there, comes across there, across the hallway onto the door on the right. We'll watch again. So it's nice and light. You can see the light there shining on the door frame. And then the shadow, look there, comes across, covers that door frame, and it covers the one on the right. Apologies if that dog barking makes you jump. Now, what's interesting is this video then continues, and what you're gonna hear now is the family downstairs begin to panic because they can hear things and they're experiencing things. So they begin to panic, and towards the end of this clip, I think it's this clip, you hear Kelly kind of getting the children and telling them to go outside. And this is what this family do. There was a period of time for about 2 months where the family slept downstairs. You can imagine 2 8-year-old twins, teenage girls, the mom, the dad, all slept downstairs because they were so petrified of going upstairs. And you can hear them panic and get out now, as they say downstairs. And the shadow, once they start to react, it seems like the shadow retracts and moves back. So you can see that it's just kind of moving backwards and forwards, this shadow, and she says there's something upstairs. You can hear her say right at the end there. And this shadow kind of retracts a little bit there. Once, I don't know, is it happy that he's finally got them to leave the house? I don't know. But during really bad periods, the walls have shaken. They've had things thrown at them. They have had to literally just go and stand on their driveway because they can't be in the house anymore with it. Such a shame. Now, this video is one of the first videos they sent to me. And you're going to see Lee here. Well, you're not going to see Lee here. You're going to hear Lee. And he's a big guy. You've seen him earlier during the growl video. He's a big guy. Really, nice bloke, but a big guy. And it would take a lot to scare him. And this video panics him. Now, again, I'm not going to tell you what to look for. I want to see if you guys see it before I replay it. But this was the first video that I was sent. So let's play this now.
Oh boy, hold on. Some look. Where is it? Hello? Anyone there? Anyone there? I can hear you. Where are you? Hey? Where?
Now, this video, I can watch it all day. It blows my mind. So what you're seeing there is the reverse angle of what you saw before. So you can see there the bathroom is now on the right, the bedroom is now on the left, and there's that wall. That's what I was trying to tell you, that the camera is right up in that corner. So there is nothing behind that. So with the shadow that you were seeing before, there's nothing that can be there causing it. Otherwise, you would see it. It's that simple. Now, again, some people are picking up on it, which is great. Thank you very much. What you're looking out for here is he's heard something. You can hear the TV in the background, children are running around. He's upstairs, he's got his dog, and he can hear something. And he calls it out. He says, I can hear you. Where are you? And then you see this little shadow come out of the bedroom door, shoot across the hallway into the bathroom, and the door closes itself. And he panics and nearly trips over in his haste to get away. It's an imp-like little shadow. Saw the shadow at the bottom of the wall, Molly. Yeah, it's very small. It's almost imp-like. So we'll play that again because it's a brilliant capture. Just look out for that shadow from left to right, and then the bathroom door closing.
Oh boy, hold on. Some look. Where is it? Hello? Anyone there? Anyone there? I can hear you. Where are you? Hey? Where?
Now, it's important to note that he obviously doesn't see that shadow because he doesn't react until the bathroom door slams shut. Yes, Molly, watch it all over and over again. Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic video. This was about a day or two after they first started to have things happening in the house. So this is a really, really early capture. And when we went down we tried to debunk this. So I'm not the slimmest of guys, but we tried to get our thinnest guy to stand up against the wall behind the camera and make a shadow. We tried to get someone behind the camera, the way Lee's facing here, to kind of wave around and make a shadow look like it's coming out of one room into the other. We couldn't do it no matter what we tried, what we waved around, what light source we used. We just could not debunk it. And of course, the bathroom door closing itself is a completely, again, I don't know how they would have done that. So an absolutely fantastic piece of evidence there. It really, really is. And that's really what set, again, the precedence, because for Lee, this was about 2 days after they first started to have things happen, and straight away there's this going on, which isn't very nice. So we're going to move now onto some orbs, and I'm not going to linger too much on orbs, because for those that have read my book, or for those that have watched me before, I'm not a big fan of orbs. In fact, just before I came on air, I was working on my second book, and I just got into the orb debate again, and I'm not a big fan. But let's just watch a couple of videos. So you can hear that this is when we were there, and we'd set up a few little tests. We've got the spirit board, obviously, and we're downstairs laughing at this point. And just as we start laughing, it's almost like these orbs want to come down and see what's going on. They shoot out of the bedroom and down the stairs. Now, what makes those orbs stand out for me and think that it's not just dust is there's no other dust particles in this video. You can't see any now. You can't see any when it's playing. And they're quite fast. They kind of zoom right down the stairs, one after the other. They're quite clear. They're quite distinct. They seem to be moving independently. So that's quite an interesting video. And this one. So what you might see there is, just as I think looking at footwear, I think that was Ryan. Just as he steps over the coins and opens the door, it's almost like an orb goes through his legs into the room. So again, quite independent acting. So again, just quite an interesting one with that orb there. Okay. So I'm just going to move on, thinking of time. We might end up going 5 or 10 minutes over, if you guys don't mind hanging around for an extra 5 or 10 minutes, just so I can show you everything that I possibly can. This is an interesting video because this has it all. Now, someone did debunk this for me and made me look at it in a different light, shall we say. But let's see what you guys make of this. So in this, we hear a voice. The light in the kitchen acts independently. There's then a rattle, and then you see an orb as well. So let's have a play. So you hear this kind of mechanical voice again. It's quite difficult to make out what it's saying. The light turns itself off. The dog walks into the living room. You hear this rattle, and then the orb flies out of the living room. So, that rattle, is it the dog shaking himself as he's walked into the room? I think yes. I think the dog is shaking. So you hear him shaking on the wooden floor and his collar being shook. That doesn't explain the voice. It doesn't explain the light turning itself off, and it doesn't explain the orb shooting out of the room at the end. But I think the rattle, is the dog. Hate to do it to you guys, but we always have to be looking for other possibilities. Like, everything is paranormal. And I think that's what that is there. But it doesn't explain the other pieces of evidence captured there. What did the voice say? Martin, it's really difficult. I can't make it out. I've listened to this with headphones in. I've tried to make it a little bit clearer. I don't know. It's just this same electronic voice that you've heard before with the oi and going to get you. It's that kind of pitch of voice. And that's all I can hear. I can't make out any words. Okay, so sensory is the next category. So with sensory, you might experience hot or cold spots, sensing that there's someone or something stood near you, and smells. Now, this is probably the biggest category when it comes to what we spoke of at the start. And, the fact that these energies might be, or in my opinion, do exist and live outside of our perception of visible light. They're basically interacting on frequencies that we can't interact with unless we use equipment. And so sometimes, you might be sat at work, or you're sat watching the TV, and you feel like somebody stood next to you, but when you look with your eyes, you can't see anyone. So we fall into the old trap of, oh, well, I can't see it, so there's nothing there. But maybe there is. Just because you can't see it, don't forget, there's 99.65% of the world that you can't see because it falls outside of your perception. So there's definitely something there. But it might not be paranormal, but there is something there that you can't interact with. So sensory, of course, it's quite difficult to capture these kind of things because it's very personal. Feeling like something is near you, smelling something, feeling a hot spot or a cold spot. It's quite difficult to capture that, but you might do so by using some of these. So the thermal imaging camera again, the cheaper option of that, which is the laser gun. These are great. I mean, I have these for my reptiles. I use this to make sure that their enclosure is nice and warm. And of course, a lot of you would have experienced having one of these pointed at your head in recent times, but we're not going to get into that now. That's a different show. And this Stickman, I'm not a fan of Stickman. I'm not going to go into Stickman. I've done that on previous presentations, which you can dig up on YouTube. But these are just ways that you might be able to capture some kind of sensory activity going on. Empathetic, so picking up on emotions, sensing the atmosphere of a room or an environment, headaches, bodily injuries. And what's interesting with these kind of things is that, for me, this is a really big thing because I think I tend to fall into this. I've been to locations where, just to give a really quick example, we were in a room and there were 3 beds and a little kind of dressing table, and I was sat on the dressing table on a little stool, and this guy was walking up and down, and he wouldn't sit down. So I said, just sit on the bed, and he said, no, I can't sit on the bed. I feel really bad. So I said, well, fine, I'll sit on the bed. You have the stool. Within seconds of sitting on the bed, I started to cry. I felt hopeless. I remember asking for a gun. I said, if anyone's got a gun, I would end it all now. I felt utterly hopeless. It was a horrible, horrible feeling. And the tears were streaming. And during that time, there was a lady by the door. It was one of these old wooden doors with the latch. And she opened the door, and someone said to her, what are you doing? She said, I need to open the door. It can't be closed. Anyway, we later did some research on the place, and we found that that room was used to abuse young children, sexually abuse young children. So it was when I sat on the bed where these things would have happened that I began to pick up on these emotions of what was going on in the room. And it wasn't very nice. And that's happened on many occasions. Sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's sad. But yeah, I do think I tend to pick up on the empathetic emotions when I go to places. But again, difficult to capture with pieces of equipment because it's such a personal experience, the empathetic category. Now we're on to physical. So we've got about 15 minutes left if we're going to go over a little bit. So physical, so being touched, things being thrown at you, stones. I've put shoes because of an interesting story related to this house. Being attacked, and of course the most extreme is possession. So we're going to go through some videos now. Now, one thing that this family began to experience was pennies. Pennies were being thrown left, right, and centre. They had New Zealand pennies thrown at them. They'd never been to New Zealand. These pennies were being thrown multiple times every day. I was a bit, could be anything that. Now, when we went down, within 5 minutes of being in the house, 2 pennies were thrown from upstairs. No one was upstairs. We were all downstairs, and 2 pennies were thrown. And I couldn't explain it. And throughout the night, we had more pennies thrown as well. And we've got some videos here of these pennies being thrown. So let's just give these a watch. So what you're seeing here is we were in the living room at the time, so obviously Lee's just come out as well. So we were all in there. Elise, the daughter, was sat on the stairs. She was supposed to be getting changed to go out, but she didn't want to go upstairs on her own. And what happens is this penny comes down, hits the back wall behind her, comes over her head, lands and rolls into the living room where we're all stood. So you can hear it more than see it, but just give that a listen. Elise obviously poos her pants a little bit and comes running into the living room. And I think we come out and start to have a look.
So we see big cat corners of our eyes. You can sit in from the up. My daughter, the only thing major that we've had.
Please excuse my bowl patch; it has got worse, I must say. But yeah, so that was we were there. We hadn't been there long at all, and this penny had been thrown right down the stairs at us. So we'll move on to the next video of a penny. Now this is interesting because as Lee is going down the stairs, a penny is thrown, and we think it's because he's incited this thing. He's kind of having a go at it, and this thing's threatened by Lee, and he throws a penny as he goes down the stairs. So it's quite a long video, so I'm just going to kind of skip it along a little bit.
Oh, fuck off!
I did warn you about the language, so apologies again. So as he gets to the top of the stairs, you get a penny.
Oh, fuck off!
Don't think you're a man.
And then what happens is, as he gets to the bottom of the stairs, where are we? As he gets to the bottom of the stairs, another penny is thrown. And you hear Kelly shout there, he's just thrown another one. So there, within, the case of literally moments took Lee to get from the top to the bottom of the stairs, we've had 2 pennies thrown. Molly, love that. Are you alluding to his swearing? Yeah, there's a lot of that in some of the videos that I have. Now, this one is good because in this video, for once, you can see the penny. So what happens here is a penny has been thrown before this video, and one of his children is downstairs. He's a bit scared, and Lee lies. He tells the child, yes, that was me. I threw the penny. And then he starts to mumble under his breath, don't start this. We're going out now. Starts talking to this thing. And it reacts by throwing a penny. And you actually see this one hit the door and land on the carpet in the middle of the hallway. So again, I'm going to skip ahead because of the time.
Hi? What's up, mate? Yeah, it's me, sorry.
So there the kids just asked, did you just throw that? And he said, yeah, that was me, sorry. Now, as he goes and starts to, walk down the stairs and starts messing around, he turns that mirror around. I think he gets scared that that's going to get broken. And as he walks away, you see the penny. So you're looking just in the middle of the hallway now, and there it is. So it hits the door, you hear it, and then you see it land on the floor. Wow, look at that. Fantastic video again, because you can actually see the penny land. Now this one, again, we are getting towards the end now, so we'll make this nice and quick. This one, his friend comes round, and his friend actually experiences this. So again, this is someone completely outside of the family. This video is quite lengthy. The dog escapes. There's a lot going on. I'll just get to the bit where Lee's mate walks in and basically gets hit with a penny. So here's his mate coming in now.
Leave the door open there. Oh, no fucking way!
That's because they just told me to.
No effing way, you hear him say. So again, just as he walks past the stairs.
Oh, no fucking way!
You can see it on the floor there, just by his right foot now. So again, his mate, he's obviously been telling his friends about this, and now he's come round and experienced it. But again, just as we walked through the door, we had pennies thrown at us. So that's quite a common occurrence. Now this is interesting. This is the walls of the house, and this is where the damage that the pennies have done to the walls. You can see that. Really, here it's exposed the metalwork underneath the plaster. This is how hard these pennies are being thrown. Look at that. Really some damage being done. Now, as I say, it got nastier, and one of the young children had scratches all down his back, as you can see there. They would wake up being choked with hand marks around their throat. They still are. It's still happening, although not as bad now. The walls still shake. They don't get the pennies as often now. But this is an ongoing thing that's happening to this family. It's horrible, horrible what's going on. Really not nice at all. I'm just going to see what else we can get through. So this is Kelly. I think it's the first time you've seen Kelly, but as she comes out of the kitchen, some folders get thrown off a shelf.
What the fuck is that?
So again, just as she comes out, you see these folders land on the floor.
What the fuck is that?
So again, this thing can move stuff. Valerie, I'd move. They've tried, Valerie. They've got in touch with the council, but the council won't. It doesn't kind of come under their reasons to want to move. There was another family that I spoke to that had similar interactions, who basically ended up camping in their garden for about 2 months because they couldn't live in their house, and eventually a house became available for them to move into. But with this family, they've got 2 young twins, autistic twins as well, and they need a particular house, and it's quite difficult for them. Now I'm going to end on this. Now, we've seen, I'm sure you'll agree, we've seen some fantastic pieces of evidence tonight. But this particular video is taken from the camera that is in the corner of the hallway. And the wall that's behind the camera, there is nothing there. There is nothing behind this camera. You've seen it. It's just a wall. And what you're about to see is basically slippers and a onesie that were downstairs manifest themselves out of nowhere and get in the cut from the corner of the hallway up in the ceiling and get thrown onto the floor. And we've tried to debunk this. We've tried to mimic it. We can't. We've tried to stand right up against the wall, but you can see us. Now, these cameras are motion censored, so you miss a millisecond at the start because it's only once the clothes are moving that the camera turns itself on, of course. So just watch this for a second. And of course, 2 orbs come flying out of the pile on the floor. But again, and again, and again. I can't explain that. I don't know what that is. Again, you've seen this from the reverse. You know what's there. There is just a wall. Where have those clothes come from? The family, at this point, all the family was sleeping downstairs. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. These clothes have appeared out of nowhere and just been thrown onto the floor. Again. How is that possible? How is that possible? I can't explain that. Right. So there are some videos that I've missed because of time, of course. Don't want to kind of linger too much. You are watching the Collective Conspiracy Show, but I do host a paranormal podcast as well, which isn't live. It's just audio. It's just a pre-record, the Paranormal Paradigm podcast. So please do head over to Facebook to join that group. I put up a show today, which was about a guy who experienced a ghost train. So interesting story, because you think about ghosts being, again, we spoke of tonight, being bodies and stuff, but he actually witnessed a mechanical spirit. It was the spirit of a ghost, the spirit of a train that went past him. So please do head over to my other podcast and give that a listen and give that a like. I have written a book. It's very rare that I plug myself, and I get told off by Karen for not Karen Frey, of course, for not promoting myself enough. So I do have a book, which is an introduction to paranormal investigation. If anybody would like a copy, just let me know in the comments section, and I'm happy to post one out to you guys. Or you can just go onto Amazon and buy it from there in ebook or paperback, An Introduction to Paranormal Investigation. I am working on part 2, Experiences of a Paranormal Investigator, and I'm hoping to get that out at some point this year. It is kind of flowing now. It's coming quite easily now. But thank you guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know it wasn't the planned chat about UFOs with Glenn, but I'm sure we'll get him back on mitigating circumstances there that can't be helped. So thank you for joining me on your Sunday night. Thank you for choosing to watch me. Thank you for choosing to watch the Collective Conspiracy Show. And I hope you all take care and look after yourselves, particularly during these times. Whatever your opinion on what's going on, do look after yourselves. Do head over to the Paranormal Paradigm podcast. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, take care.